This is Goku's son, DBZ, and today I will be counting down 10 of the greatest warriors in the Star Wars universe, so that will be both the light and the dark side. I thought I'd put a hood over to try to get in the mood. As you can see behind me, I have a picture of probably one of the greatest Jedi Masters ever, and that is Revan from the Old Republic. Let's get today's vlog started. Coming in at number 10 from Star Wars episodes 1 through 6 and from the later books, Luke Skywalker. Coming in at number 9, also in the movies and in later, well, as a Force ghost, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Known more in his position for his knowledge on the Force. Coming in at number 8, Darth Vader. On this list as a Sith Lord, and as well as a great with a lightsaber, some of the best lightsaber skills by far, of course. Coming in at number 7, Master Windu, or known, of course, as Samuel L. Jackson, from Star Wars episodes 1 through 3. Master Windu is on the list because of more his power and strength and skills, of course, with a lightsaber, more so than his power with the Force. Coming in at number 6, Revan from the Old Republic. Revan originally started as a Jedi and then turned to the dark side of the Force. And, of course, with assistance from Darth Malak, which was originally his apprentice. But in the end, Revan got taken by the Jedi Masters of the Old Republic and came back to the light side of the Force, so he is the first, really, to join the dark side and actually turn back to the light side. And he ended up marrying a former, also, Master, and they had a child together. But that is for another time. Coming in at number 5, Master Yoda, which of course was in episode 1 through 6 and some earlier books. People would ask, why is Yoda not higher than number 5? Well, yes, he has great skills when it comes to the Force. That's the area his expertise lies in, is the power in the Force area. Not quite as great with the lightsaber skills, of course. Standing at about 900 years old, of course, so has a great amount of knowledge as well on top of it. But you'll see. Coming in at number 4, Darth Sidious, aka Palpatine. Darth Sidious comes in higher than Yoda. Why, you may ask? Well, it's partially because you have to understand that Darth Sidious is a great master manipulator. Of course, it's a common trick that a lot of Sith Lords can do, which is hide their Force in front of the Jedi. They've learned a trick. It's a basic trick by all Sith Lords, really. But Darth Sidious is definitely one of the most maniacal Sith Lords that ever lived. And of course, he gained control. First started out as using the dark side in order to gain a Senate seat. And then he positioned Padme to become Queen Amidala of the Naboo, of course. Then he, in episode 1, becomes Chancellor of the Republic, and then becomes known as Supreme Chancellor. And of course, ends up also creating the clone armies, which actually all this was set in place prior to episode 1, actually by his master. which, by the way, comes in number 3, right above him, and that is Darth Plagueis the Wise. Darth Plagueis is definitely perhaps one of the greatest Sith Lords that ever lived when it comes to knowledge on the dark side of the Force. His knowledge is incredible. If you actually read Darth Plagueis, the book, novel, he actually is living dream around to about the half point of Star Wars Episode 1, actually. He's still alive until the night before Senator, of course, at that time, Senator Palpatine or Darth Sidious is, the next morning, is elected Supreme Chancellor. But he, of course, gets his master Plagueis drunk. And Plagueis is already relying on a robotic breathing type device. I guess you could say like a Darth Malak or Darth Vader. There, of course, is a story behind that. Darth Plagueis' master, which taught him the Force, but he ended up killing, of course, master, which is sort of a trend in the Sith culture. The law of two, master and apprentice. Basically, you could say that Plagueis knew also that when he found out about this boy, he also helped lead Count Dooku down to the path of the dark side on top of it. It's very fascinating, actually, to learn more about it. He also created, his own creation was the banking clan, which you find out, of course, plays a role in supplying the money to build the androids and stuff. Plus, him and Sidious help basically the start of the war in Episode 1, and also position everything with the clone armies. Because Plagueis learns about Kamino and about the cloners and stuff, and so all this stuff is already set up like 30 years before Episode 1, before the movies start. He's already setting up all these plans and paves the way for Darth Sidious, or Palpatine, to take over Supreme Chancellorship. And you find a lot more out, actually, even though there's really no knowledge on Plagueis' master, his master was called Darth Telebris. It's really fascinating, but I'll get on to number 2, from Old Republic, which takes place about 1,050 years before the movies. His name is Darth Bane. Perhaps about the most powerful Sith warrior that has lived in the Star Wars universe. Basically, I guess you could say Darth Bane is very powerful in the Force, and his skills with a lightsaber is also incredible. And he reestablishes the rule of two, master and apprentice, which, of course, for Sith to come. Coming in at number 1 is basically known simply in Old Republic, takes place over 4,000 years before the movies, which goes along the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic games go into the storyline of this world, and that is the Dark Emperor, as he's basically known simply as. The Dark Emperor skills with the dark lightning and everything are mind-blowing, his powers. He would basically be able to fight Yoda off like he was a insect, basically. But it's really fascinating about the Dark Emperor. I mean, there were 3 who ended up facing the Dark Emperor. Believe it or not, which is on the list and behind me, Revan, with also assistance from another Sith Lord, which was known as Lord Scourge. Very powerful. And he ends up helping lead to the downfall 300 years later of the Emperor. You see, at this time frame, there's actually entire Sith empire of the Sith race. You see, what we know as Darth Vader and stuff are human Sith, and other alien species Sith, of course, out there, like Plagueis and others. But there was actually, at one time, the actual Sith race, which is what the Dark Emperor and Lord Scourge are. Now, the Dark Emperor is actually 1,000 years old, so he has over 100 years over how old Yoda come to be in age. He has 1,000 years of knowledge, plus he used a ritual on his home planet, wiped out all life, hundreds of millions of lives, through an ancient Sith ritual he used to gain his power. He had immortality, eternal life. And it's insane that he lived. So he didn't die until he was about 1,300 years old. Because in the end, it was Revan's later offspring that would lead to the downfall of the Dark Emperor. But he is by far the most powerful being in the Star Wars universe. If you don't know anything about the Dark Emperor and Revan and anything of the Old Republic, I'd suggest to check out some of the audiobooks here on YouTube or read some of the novels. It's really fascinating. Anyways, this is Goku's son, DBZ, and I'm getting ready to sign out. Hope you all have a good Halloween. And until next time, YouTube land, may the Force be with you.